NBA bets we love tonight, how to bet tonight's college basketball action, and NFL bets to look forward to in Week 18. All that and more on the Golden Ticket Show. Welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone had a great new year. Our first show of 2024. We're going to be in our Mamba mode today. Mamba year, right? So let's get to it. So we have been on a hot streak. If you have been following along with us over on our Twitter plays, we haven't done a show in a couple weeks just because I wanted to make sure, we took a couple weeks off, spent time with family, did what we could. Over the last 7 days, we are 19-7. We had a 3-3 day yesterday. Other than that, we went 16-4 over the last couple of days. We had 2 sweep days in a row, a couple 6-1s over the last 30 days, and we're up over 7 units in the last week, a unit a day. And over the last 30 days, we are up 4.5 units, going 60-46. That's just on verified plays. If you look at all of our full run plays, we were 34-13, 12 unit profit so far with a 30% return on investment over the last week straight. So we had our worst day in about 9-10 days yesterday. We only went 3-3 and just had a little bit of a loss. If you read our article on Substack, you know that we missed out on Wembanyama missed by 2 rebounds. We missed Fox hit for us, and we missed out on the over in the Colorado State game. But like the thing is the ones we've missed so far, we're not that far off. Chicago only lost by 13. Fox finished with 6 assists and Wembanyama 7 rebounds. Our Premier League play that we posted early in the day won. Brighton versus West Ham, double chance, either Brighton to win or draw, and they tied the game 0-0. And we hit Wake money line as well. Wake, one of my favorite teams to watch this year in college. They're a big team to look out for. So with that being said, we're going to try to keep track starting today of our bets day by day and see where we're at record-wise for the rest of 2024. So let's get right into it. We're going to start with the basketball side of it, and then we're going to do a big breakdown on how to bet Week 18 in terms of incentives and playoff positioning and things like that. So we'll start with one of my absolute favorite plays. We're going to take Providence minus 6.5 over Seton Hall. Now, there's a reason why I love this play. Providence has probably been one of my favorite teams to watch in college ball. And as you can see here, as we share our screen over to our favorite betting app, outlier.bet, over the last 10 games, they're minus 6.5 has covered in 8, and they've covered the spread in 6 of their last 10, with a 10-point win over Butler with a similar spread, and a 15-point win over Marquette as a 4.5-point underdog. Needless to say, this team is good. Now, neither of these teams have played since before Christmas, and Seton Hall is coming off a brutal 20-point loss after a big upset win over UConn and over Mizzou in back-to-back days. But I still love Providence here. With the splits as they are, it just makes too much sense to trust the Friars here. As I'm going to try to pull up the stat I found on this earlier. But, these apps never like to work at me right. As soon as I go live, they go AWOL. So I'm looking at the trends for this game. The big thing I noticed over here on Action Network, our other buddy in our gambling research, is at home, they are 8-4 against the spread, Providence. And in the very few road games that Seton Hall has played, they've only covered the spread one time. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was Mizzou. Every other road game they've played this year, You look, they lost to Xavier by 20. They lost to Baylor by 18, and they lost to USC by 8. All of these games, they were only one of these games were they an underdog by more than 10 points. They have struggled against road teams this year. Maybe it's come back after the Mizzou game. This will be their first real test after that on the road. But I think it's just going to be too much against a Providence team that is just lights out right now. And our second play is going to be right here. It is we took the under at 136.5. Now, I don't like taking college basketballs under that often. I like watching games, so I don't like taking the unders because I don't want to root for misses. I want to see overs. I want to see high-scoring games. I want to see close, hard-fought games. But I think that this is just an easy way to hit this. I only put a half a unit because this wasn't this was more of a statistical play than anything. And the reason why is this is you can see right here, Providence at home this year is 3-9 to the under in the 12 games they've played at home, where the Pirates over at Seton Hall are 1-3. So neither of these teams play good in their situation. They're more unders in these situations than anything. So that's definitely one thing we looked at. And if you even look over here at the over-under in this game, according to Outlier, as you can see, the under is hit in 60% of their last 10. And if you look at the home and the away splits, as an away team, the under has hit they're about 50-50 this season in their 4 games. They've went 2-2. Their only overs were the big game against Mizzou, and they technically went under in 3 of the 4, but they did technically go over 136 in their Baylor game. But the line was set at 147, and they missed that by 10 points. If you look at every one of these lines, they've missed it by multiple scores. Now, if we look at the other side of this for Providence this season, they've played 12 home games. The over has kind of been a big hit this year. But if you look, that is an over according to the 136 number. If you look, they have went under in every game but 3 at home this year. Those 3 was a Butler game where both teams' offenses were hot. You have Rhode Island, who plays very quick, and you have Wagner, who the under-over was set too low because that was pretty much a blowout game. But you look at some of these games against the big-name teams. You have Wisconsin. It was set at 141. They only hit 131, 145, 143. A lot of these are staying around that 135, 140 mark. So I think with this being a conference game, I think there's too much riding on this. I think there's too much going for Providence in this case, and I think that they're going to want to have to shut down the Seton Hall team. So I only put a half a unit on it. It's more just the statistical outlook of it that's making me want to take this. It's worth the risk because I still believe at least they're going to get the profit from the cover on the spread, and we should still end up with at least a half a unit or a quarter of a unit profit for this one. And our next one is going to be a teaser. I have not put a lot of these in, but it's just one I had to take because the lines on these were not my favorite, and they weren't my favorite, but I liked them too much to bet it. And that's probably my biggest flaw as a bettor, is too many of these bets that are like too sharp and I want to take them, but I can't think of how I want to run the line. So the first one's going to be, we're taking Georgia Tech plus 4.5, and we're going to alter that all the way down to 8.5 in this teaser. We're doing a 4-point teaser. Now, I like this because of one major thing. If you see, this Florida State team has not covered an 8.5-point spread almost at all. They've only covered this one in one game, and that still was a push at 16. A lot of their games, when they're winning as a favorite, they're not winning by a lot or they're losing. They've lost 3 of their last 5 games as a favorite, and they've lost. And then the only times they've really covered an 8.5-point favorite spread was after this Colorado game, was beginning of the season against some lesser competition. So going against a Georgia Tech team that is playing very well, and the ACC matchups are always hard to tell, but with 2 teams whose defenses are a lot better than their offenses, I trust the better rebounding team, which is Georgia Tech, as they rank top 25 in offensive rebounds per game, but Florida State has offering the in the bottom tier of defensive rebounds per game. So we're going to trust that. And then the next part of this one is going to be in the Clemson-Miami game. As soon as I can find it here. We're going to take this line and we're going to alter it to 155.5. Now, there's a reason why I like this play here. I'm going to go to this matchup page here to show you guys. So if you look right here, let's focus on Clemson's offense right now. They're averaging 82 points a game, and they're 44th against defense that they haven't really played much competition. And I think that's just the reason why they're not ranked right now. They're good, but they're missing Isaiah Wong. They're missing their stars from last year, and they're having to play a lot of these teams to kind of get ready for this. And I think that's going to be the big issue here is they're going up although they've not really been the best in terms of, or they've been better in defense. They haven't played much competition here. As you look, Northern Florida, Stonehouse, LaSalle, Colorado, it was good. Long Island U is considered one of the worst teams in college this year. Notre Dame, Kentucky. Outside of that Kentucky game, if you look, some of the schools that are actual legit potential contenders this year, they gave up 83. They gave up 68. They gave up 95. LaSalle could be a sneaky contender. They gave up 77. They gave up 90 to Colorado. Everything else has been teams that just are not there offensively this year. And I think this will be one of their first real tests. If you could see a lot of these teams that are top scorer teams and fast-paced teams can put up a lot of points against them. And even with all the injuries, I just think it's going to be an easy game for that. And looking on the opposite side of it, the same thing here. The Hurricanes score 84th. Both these teams, you can see 44th and 22nd in scoring. They both score 82 or more points just about every single game. And both teams also are ranking in top 50 in three-point percentage, field goal percentage, 2-point percentage, free throw percentage. These are two teams that score. And when you give them the chance to, they put points on you as fast as possible. Not to mention, the big thing I'm looking at tonight with this game is one thing simply, and it's the amount of fouls each team give up per game. As we look at Miami's last game, these are the two top teams right now currently in the ACC, which I think if anyone said they had Clemson and Miami leading the ACC right now, they were lying to you. Even in these games against bad teams, they're still fouling about 13 to 14 times a game. Their defense plays very aggressive, and it still tends to force teams to the line. And luckily, they just have not been playing teams that can get to the line, as their only real game this year so far in the last 5 that they've given up less than 10, or they've gotten less than 10 fouls was LaSalle. So I really like this here. Once again, that teaser, it's about to come across the screen here in just a second, is going to be Georgia Tech +8 and over 151.5 in the Clemson-Miami game. That's -110 on DraftKings right now. So I'm taking, at the time of recording, so I'm taking that one right now. That's all we have for college basketball. We're going to break down our NBA plays really fast. We only have 3 tonight. We might have some more that'll come in later, but I think as of now, I'm just sticking with these 5 plays and kind of going with a 5 play a day kind of thing, maybe like up my amount for units, and then just find 5 or 6 quality plays. We went 1-2 on NBA yesterday. We got hooked on Wembanyama by 1.5 and just an ugly game. The line was there. The read was there. I just think they're just slowly playing him less and less. Because maybe they just realized that they're not going to win anything this year and they're going to fight for that one spot. So they're just going to keep barely playing him. But, there was a stat yesterday that any game that Wembanyama has played less than 25 minutes, he is the only time he hasn't hit this line this year. And this was the first time he had hit over 25, and he had just hit 26. He was at 26 minutes and a second. So not much of a difference there. And again, another, what was it? It wasn't even a blowout. It was an 8-point game. But that's really it. I mean, Wemby just missed it by 2. So we move on. We go to today's NBA plays. First one is going to be, as it's coming up on the screen right now, Thunder -2. You can take the money line even if you're more comfortable. I know a lot of people are, I don't want to say hating on this play, but I've seen a lot of people take the opposite side in this, and everyone's kind of going back and forth between the team that's top tier. I even have this at -1 as of time of recording. I took this in at about 9:30 in the morning. So I'm going to pull up the stats just for money line because -1 is essentially the same as money line. Now, if you see, they've won 8 of their last 10 against a Hawks team that's struggling. Their last win was against the Wizards, but they struggled against the Kings. They struggled against the Bulls. They struggled against the Grizzlies and the Heat. They haven't won a game since their win over the Rockets. But the big thing to look at is this. When they've been struggling, they have struggled at home. Outside of the Pistons, they have not won a legitimate home game since the Nets. And outside of that, if you look, they lost to the Pacers. They lost to Philly. They're losing to playoff teams, and they're beating these teams that are kind of either fringe playoff teams or not even. I wouldn't even consider some of these fringe playoff teams. If you look, the only real playoff team contending team they've beat at home was Minnesota versus a Thunder team who on the road, if you look, they beat the Nuggets twice. They've beat the Mavericks, who are a top team right now. They beat the Warriors twice. They beat the Suns. They beat Cleveland. They've beaten Chicago. So they've beaten good teams on the road versus a team who hasn't. I think the one thing that's keeping this close is OKC played a very close game last night, against Boston, and they're on a back-to-back. So I think a lot of people are taking this line, but I just think the way the Thunder play, they dictate the pace of this game. I just think they have an easy chance to win. You could take the money line or even take the 1 on the spread, but that's my go-to for tonight. It's going to be one of my favorite plays. The next one we're going to talk about is this Clippers play right here. We're just taking the money line here. I feel like the Suns, if I took the spread, would burn me too much on this, but I do think that this game will be won by the Clippers, so we're taking the money line straight up. Now let's look. 8-2 in their last 10, 5-5. Most notably, they are on a 4-game win streak, which is good, and that win streak has featured 2 good teams in Orlando and Houston. But here's the big thing I'm looking at, and it's not just the away splits, but 8-2, and look who the Clippers have beaten. Outside of Charlotte and Memphis, you have the Knicks, the Warriors, the Kings, the Pacers, the Mavericks. They lost to the Thunder in a close game. They lost to the Celtics. When that was a game, I think Kawhi and Paul George were both out. And then they beat Miami. So they're beating these good teams. When Kawhi and them are not playing, they're playing bad. When they are playing, they're good. The big thing I'm really looking at is Kevin Durant is out tonight. So when you look at this on the Phoenix side of it, as you can see, they're 2-16 as an underdog. And I'm trying to find, I know the app has, I don't know if the website has a filter for, usually has like a filter for if players are out. But you know what? I'll just pull it up on my phone to show you guys because, we're smart and we can multitask at the same time. Either that or I'm just really stupid. So one thing I'm really, really looking at in this game is this. When Kevin Durant is not playing this season, they've only played 2 good teams that they've beat, and that was the Warriors and the Knicks. However, it was the Knicks on a back-to-back, and it was the Warriors on a back-to-back. This is a Clippers team that's had a day off. They're not really traveling far. I really like the Clippers here. I just think they match up against a terrible defense better because you got Booker and Beal guarding George and Harden. You're not really going to have anyone guarding the 3, the 4, or the 5. So I just think there's too many offensive weapons the Clippers are using. They're gelling too well. Give me the money line straight up. If you want to take the spread, by all means, go for it. And we have one more play. It's a little bit of a parlay. It was low value last I looked at it. I don't know what you can get it at now, but it was the best thing I could sweeten it with. And it is Knicks money line. And we'll go over why I like that. This is a Bulls team that just played last night in a very tough game. They had to come behind. As you can see, the injury list here, you have Torrey Craig is out, Levine is out, Vucevic is out, Kobe White and Williams are going to be game time decisions. So meaning if they don't play because of ankle injuries, so he has a 36. They're both, it looks like one's probable, one's questionable. But the Knicks, they played really well against the best team in the West with their new lineup. And I think they just have too much, I think, to get past this Bulls team that's coming back from Philly, going from Philly to New York, and then having to play in the Garden, which is going to be a very tough environment tonight with the way the Knicks already played. So we're taking them right there off the drop. And then the other part we're going to add into this is Randall 20 points. Now, you can take him more if you want. You could take him less, but I'm sticking with the 10 points because, as you can see, he has hit this in 19 of his last 20 games. Ever since his slump in November, like his last game against the Bucks on November 3rd and the back-to-back against Cleveland, he has scored this line every game but one, and that was Miami, a team he has not done the best at this year. But look, you have 27, 23, 23. He's back to his old ways. You could even take this and move it to 24.5. It's a little bit less likely to hit, but he's averaging right around that line. He's finishing just at about 24 points. He's failed to hit this lineup against top 10 scoring defenses, but in his last game against a top scoring defense, he put up 39 points. So he's hot right now, and I think with Anunoby, no one really knows how to guard this team with Anunoby. So give me that. I think last I checked, when I put it in, it was like 212. But let me see. It's about I think it's like about 210, 240. So I'm willing to take the low value here and just put a unit on it to get what we can out of it. So those are our three best. Those are our plays today so far. We have 5 plays we love, and we're going to do a full write-up on these a little bit later on. But we have Seton Hall -6.5. We have we have Seton Hall under at a half a unit, and we have the teaser of Georgia Tech +8, Miami Clemson over 151.5, Knicks money line and Randall 20+ points, Clippers money line, and Thunder -2. Coming up after the break, we are going to be breaking down Week 18, how to bet players, incentives, and bets we've already made this week. Right after the break.
My name's Ryan Allison. I've spent over a decade immersed in the art of tattooing. Sharply honing my skills has materialized into a diverse and prestigious body of work. Each tattoo reflects my relentless pursuit of excellence, and every client I work with is a living embodiment of that unwavering commitment. I will gladly and wholeheartedly embrace your distinct vision.
Alrighty, let's welcome back. So we're going to go over our best bets so far that we've made, and then we're going to transition that into player incentives that we really, really like so far, that really you can kind of use for your fantasy, DFS, all that. So let's go ahead and break down our best plays. So the first one we have is Seahawks money line. Now this one will lead into incentives. So not too much on this one that we're not going to be able to really double back on. Seahawks are facing a Cardinals team that has the potential with a loss to grab the second pick in the draft. If they win this game, they potentially go to the 5. Now, obviously, 2 versus 5 is a little bit different in football, but why wouldn't you want the 2 pick when you have the potential to get Marvin Harrison Jr. if the Bears do not get him? Plus, they might have a little bit more of a chance of maybe a trade with one of these teams that are looking to move up or move down in later rounds in the pick. But the Seahawks need a win for multiple reasons outside of the Cardinals wanting a loss, and that is a loss by the Packers and a win by the Seahawks automatically put them into the final playoff spot. But not only that, Geno Smith gets a $2 million bonus if they make the playoffs this year, which should be enough to really make Geno put together his best effort this week against a struggling Cardinals defense that had a great game against just a god-awful Philly team, which I don't know what they're doing lately. Like I said, they're waving the white flag. I think this is a week they're just going to go out and just put out a team and maybe not hope to lose, but at least keep it close. So I'm taking Seahawks money line for sure. The next one we have is Raiders -2.5. Now, this team's actually been very fun to watch. The last couple weeks, they've been the inspiration that Antonio Pierce kind of put together for this team. Hopefully he gets the full-time job, at least a season, and they can see where it goes, some kind of option in there for the team. But the Raiders have been playing a lot better over the last couple of weeks. They're 3-2 at home with Pierce while facing a Broncos team that's benched their starting quarterback. And Stidham did not do the worst last week, but did not really do the best. He had a solid game, I would say, and a revenge game would be really fun to see. But I just don't see this Broncos team that's 3-4 on the road this year. I don't see them leaving Vegas with a win, but Vegas just has too much going. The coach kind of has a potential the job on the line here. I just think this is a great game for them to kind of take over. I'll take the points here, and I'll live and die with the Raiders this week. And one more we're waiting and seeing on, but I'm curious to see where this line's move, so I'm going to check it as we go. But I like the Steelers -3.5. I've seen some people take the other side of it, but the Steelers have been really good, and I know they've kind of burnt us in the past, and I don't really want to go back to them. But Mason Rudolph has been solid, and the Steelers have looked better. There's a huge amount of scenarios that the Steelers need to happen to finish in a playoff spot, but the easiest way to get through a lot of these scenarios is they just need to win the game. And, if Buffalo or Jacksonville lose, they immediately get knocked out, and Steelers get that spot. So the Steelers really need a win this week. And I think against a Ravens team that I don't know if it's official yet, but they're more than likely not going to start Lamar and give him an extra week off. So or even if he does, he's probably going to play like maybe 25. He's going to play the first quarter, and then they're going to use it like preseason. They're just going to put in Huntley, maybe even Malik Cunningham. But they're going to be holding back a lot of players that outside of their incentive players, and for injury reasons and rest and just making sure they're there. So I want to see how the line moves and see where it adjusts to. But like I said, you can take the money line straight up if you want, but I just think the Steelers are going to have what it takes this week. This is a bitter rivalry game, but I think the Steelers will come out on top tonight. So that will be our 3 plays for the NFL. As of now, more to come later on in the week. But coming up after this next quick break, we are going to go over NFL player incentives and what that means for this upcoming Week 18 right after the break.
Durham Remodeling has been serving the Quad Cities area since 1973, and with over 50 years of excellence on their track record, you'll see why it's so easy to trust their experts when it comes to all of your home improvement projects. This family-owned business has you covered on all your needs. Protect your home or building from the elements today and get great roof repair services. Need new windows? No problem. Durham Remodeling can upgrade your windows and doors. Whether you want to upgrade the little details in your home or office, or want to tear a room down and start fresh, the expert contractors at Durham Remodeling have your back. Even the smallest changes can completely transform your space. Ready to start entertaining your friends for backyard barbecues? Durham Remodeling will help you plan, design, and build your deck and patio for the perfect outdoor space. Durham Remodeling's work is 100% guaranteed, so you can rest assured that you're getting the best service around. Call 309-786-6715 today for your free estimate for all your roofing, siding, flooring, windows, and painting needs. That's Durham Remodeling, 309-786-6715.
For frequency's sake has you covered on all things sports. From the squared circle to the hardwood and the gridiron to the speedway, we've got something for everyone. Walk down the aisle with the boys from Cards Subject to Change every Sunday as they take a deep dive into everything pro wrestling. Need your gambling fix? We've got you there. Enter Pit Row with Rod Villagomez and Fast Money as we win the checkered flag with NASCAR, Xfinity, and truck race winners and props. Football more your style? Explore the waters of NFL DFS with DFS Deep Dive with Brian Craighead and Jordan Kernan each week. More into the science portion of the game? We've got a double dose of action there. The Professor John Bush and Dennis Michelson take you into their science lab and dissect your week in the data lab. Want an analytical take? Nick Gurl and the team at Gridiron AI come to you each week with The Lab. Need to know who to start last minute? The network's flagship show, For Fantasy's Sake, is here in a pinch. The fellows come to you live every football Sunday from 10 to 11:30 Central with the week's best DFS, gambling, and lineup advice. And wrap up your Sundays with Joe Winkle and Nick Brinks as they come to you live with educated ignorance looking at all the day's action. Can't get enough of Joe? He comes to you 3 times a week. Not enough football on Sunday? Not a problem. Kick your feet up at lunch on Monday and slip on into the Football Lounge with Mark and Dan while they look at the week that was in news, notes, and more. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
Alrighty, so let's dive in real quick to player incentive because we didn't have a lot. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter show. I think we might start doing some more of these little quick 30-minute shows so DJ doesn't yell at me for going close to an hour. All right, so we have, let's see here. I have about 12 to 14 player incentives that can potentially hit. Now, I think some of these are a little bit of a long stretch, but it's something these guys are looking for. So let's go ahead and break them down and what that could mean for your daily fantasy. If you guys have a league where week 18 keeps it going, then week 18, or even just for gambling purposes, if you're a degenerate like myself. So first one we're going to go over is Odell Beckham Jr. OBJ needs 185 yards for a $750,000 bonus, 5 catches for a $250,000 bonus, and 2 touchdowns for $500K. Now, I think 2 touchdowns and 185 might be a bit of a stretch. I don't think he's even gotten close to 100 this year off the top of my head. But 5 catches seems doable in a game where we might see limited action from Zay Flowers, we might see limited action from Bateman, and they might get wide receivers, 3, 4, 5, and even 6 more time. So look for OBJ to kind of maybe be a top target this week. I think that's something you could, if you don't take his 5 catches, I think, let's see where his line's at. I think his line is probably closer to like 2.5 or 3.5, but let's do a little check here. Let's see. By the way, in the comments, go ahead and put down who do you think who's your favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know who I like this year. I think it's good. What's your matchup, guys? I think it's going to be Ravens Niners, just off the top of my head. But I think there's some sneaky teams there in the AFC but I just don't see anyone beating the Niners, honestly. But yeah, so no lines are out for any of the games yet. I think they're probably going to come starting tomorrow, maybe even Friday. So we'll look at that again and kind of put together, best props, rank them A through F tier. But so let's go on to the next one. I actually really like this one. If you can find this one, I'm definitely putting money on this one. Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs needs half a sack for a $1.25 million bonus. Now, they might limit him in play because of it being the Chargers. They've already secured their spot. They can't do any better or any worse. But the big thing that I'm looking at for this one that I think of is the fact that the Chargers have one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL with a bad backup quarterback and an offense that just doesn't seem to be doing anything over the last couple of weeks. So look for Jones to quickly get his sack and get the hell out. So we're going to take Chris Jones to get at least half a sack. Next one is Austin Eckler, 110 yards. 100K is at stake for him. I'm kind of iffy on this one. It's just 110 total yards. So Eckler's had the ability to. If Herbert was in, maybe I could see it happening. But without Herbert in, I'm not too big on this one. But I'll leave that up to you. This one I actually do like. I think it has the potential. Both of these have the potential of hitting. DeAndre Hopkins needs 49 receiving yards for a $1 million bonus for the season, and he needs 7 receptions for a $250K season. Now, 7 receptions is probably a lot to ask for with Will Levis as your quarterback and the way Vrabel runs his offense. But 49 receiving yards shouldn't be that hard. That just means he's got to put the extra effort in on a catch, get that extra 1 or 2 yards at a time. He should be able to hit this. He's hit this line, I think, 4 or 5 times with Will Levis as quarterback. So I think we'll take that one right there. We'll probably take his over on 50-plus receiving yards. Probably isn't too – I don't want to say it's too low. I don't want to say it's too high. But that is one I am definitely looking at going into this week. Let me see if maybe FanDuel has some stuff up because DraftKings doesn't. No, neither one do. But we're definitely going to take D-Hop's 49.5 receiving yards. Tyreek Hill needs 248 yards to break the record. Now, he's hit 200 yards once this year. I think 250 is definitely a big stretch, but I had to include that in here. Tyreek Hill needs 248 yards to break the all-time record. I think if he didn't miss that week, he would have probably been closer to like 150. But, I mean, obviously, if he gets close to this, they're going to and they're winning, they're going to feed him the ball to try to get him this record. So, but yeah, that's what we're kind of taking right now. Geno Smith, we already mentioned this one before. He needs to win the game to make the playoffs if the Packers lose. And what's at stake for him is $2 million. So obviously he's going to be playing good. Like I said, Seahawks money line is one of our plays today. So that's something to really look at. Maybe even take Geno's passing yards, maybe take him in DFS this week and kind of hope he just doesn't have a bad week. Dalton Schultz, one of my favorite tight ends of the season, needs 4 catches for a $250,000 bonus and 6 catches for a $500K bonus. Now, we've seen him hit this line before. I think he goes over on his receiving yards. If this is a tough one because they need a big win. This isn't a week where it's just like, oh, well, let's go out there, try to make our money. They need a win and a loss by one of their AFC South teams to potentially make the playoffs. They're on the bubble right now. So look for Schultz to be active in this offense because the team they're playing, it does not do well against tight ends. They give up, I think it was like the 5th most. Yeah, the Colts give up like the 5th most receptions to tight end. They leave the middle open, so look for Schultz there to do good. Now, we talked about Geno, but the other side of it, Jordan Love needs make a win to secure a playoff spot. He gets a $500,000 bonus for making the playoffs and a $250,000 bonus for each playoff win that he has with the Packers this season. So look for him to kind of go in on a Bears team that could potentially have another playoff spot. They have like a 0.001% chance technically of making it. They're not technically eliminated mathematically, but look for them to, I don't want to say wave the white flag, but I think this is because it is a rivalry game, but I think this is a game that they probably are going to look at not trying too hard to win. So look for Jordan Love here to play good. We're going to go back to Tampa Bay. Levante David, he needs 1 stack for 150K. And this is a big game. They need a big win. I think we could potentially see it. I think they're going to run him a couple more blitzes. It's always hard to tell with these games that, you see like where it has playoff implications because they're not really like it's not going to maybe be as many blitzes. They're going to really focus on winning versus the bonus and go from there. But I think 1 sack is doable if he can just get his hand on someone as they're taking someone down. They give him a quarter or a half a sack. So get a couple of those, and you got your money. Now we're gonna go back to Texas here. Devin Singletary, he needs 165 total yards to get a $125,000 bonus. Now he's kind of taken over the offense over Dameon Pierce. Maybe it's been because of injuries, but Pierce has just not been playing his best this year, and Singletary has been playing great in this offense next to CJ Stroud. So look for him to have a big game here. He had a big game against the Colts last time, if I remember right. Actually, no, he didn't even play against the Colts last time, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But the way he's been playing last couple of weeks, 165 yards, he's going to have a little bit extra motivation here. So look for him to go big there. And our last 4 here, some of these I think are a little bit off. Like 3 of these I think are a little bit too far away from happening, but it's still worth mentioning. So we're going with one I think is most likely is Jadeveon Clowney needing 1 sack, $750K bonus at stake. He needs 1 sack against a team that has just been Who are they playing? Who is he even on anymore? I don't even remember. I haven't seen Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, I thought he was on the Ravens, but I didn't want to say anything. He's going against a Pittsburgh team that's had an iffy at times offensive line, so I could see this happening, especially if they kind of keep their foot on the gas pedal. Being a rivalry game, I think this could definitely happen. So, if you want to make a sack parlay, you got Chris Jones right there, you got Levante David, you got Jadeveon Clowney, and you got two of these next guys. Calais Campbell needs 3 sacks for $500K. Now, obviously, that is a huge stretch, but he's been fairly good this year, so I could see it potentially happening the way he's been playing. So, and then Bud Dupree needs 2 sacks for $1 million. I don't see this one happening. I don't think he can pull off 2 sacks this week. But the last one here is, I think this is a definite no shot. This is happening, and it's Alexander Madison, 125 rushing yards. He's kind of been taken out of the offense the last couple of weeks, and 125 yards is a lot for a team that might be passing the ball a lot late against a Detroit team. So, though, I think I would say if you want to take a bet on the best 3 I have, and that's going to be DeAndre Hopkins needing 49 yards, I would just take him 50-plus receiving yards. Take Chris Jones to get a sack, and I would just take either Dalton Schultz to get 4 catches, or I would even maybe take like Geno Smith's over on his passing line, or take Seahawks to win. Those are my 3 best ones, I think, right now. But that'll be it for us today. We will come back to you tomorrow with some more best bets. We're going to go into some NHL action, NBA, college, and potentially look at some more football action for you guys. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that tomorrow. Thank you all for watching, and y'all have a great night.